It's like a bubble on the surface of the ocean. It's the same ocean water, the same air, but just a different configuration. And because of that, we give ourselves importance. But in doing that, what we're doing is we are letting go of the grandeur that we are.
Of the ocean.
Of the ocean. Similarly, we are Atman. We are that mighty force that operates the whole universe. But because we consider ourselves an individual, we've become weak, we've become fragile, we've become dependent, when our original nature is something else.
Namaste and welcome to episode 22 of our show on the Bhagavad Gita with Srimati Jaya, renowned teacher of Vedanta and also my mother. I'm your host Ajay. Today we're going to explore and discuss how the ego functions and how it can hamper our lives. And we're also going to understand how Lord Krishna infuses our lives with positivity through his message, his mischief, the playfulness, and of course, his grace. Jayaji, there's this famous story of Lord Krishna as a makhan chor or a butter thief. Can you explain, can you tell us about this story and what it signifies? Because we're often asked, how can you worship someone who steals? So there is a kind of paradox. I think if you could throw some light on that.
Yes. See, the philosophy is so subtle that it needs a story that is dramatic to hold people's attention. And it's done it so brilliantly. So many thousands of years down the line, when we celebrate his birth, we recreate the situation of stealing butter. So, but over the ages, we've seemed to have forgotten the significance, and we just go through the actions and we know he's called Makhan Chor, but we don't know why.
Do you want to take us through the story first?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in Gokul, when Krishna was young, little boy, it was a dairy-rich place. So, ladies, women would make butter at home and hang it in these earthenware pots high up, so that maybe insects and other creatures don't get to it. But in spite of that, they found that the butter was missing. And they wanted to find out who and how it happened. They finally zeroed in on Krishna. And Krishna, anyway, was full of mischief. Now, mischief, again, is an indicator of objectivity, of cheer. It's only when you feel cheerful and lighthearted that you can play mischief,
True.
If you're weighed down with problems, you don't think of mischief.
Yep.
And so they went and told Yashoda that this is what he's doing. Now, she tried to control him and that didn't work. So now the significance is very, very subtle. See, the spiritual path is about eradicating desire. So we've seen this before. We've said the formula is human being minus desire equals God.
Yeah.
So the initial stages are Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, which help reduce your desires. Then you're left with a handful of desires. You reach the state of Uparati, where you're withdrawn from the world because you want nothing in the world. But you're still stuck with a few desires. Desire for realization, that's very strong. Desire to serve the Guru, who has played such a central role in your growth. And desire to serve the world. Loka Sangraha, work for the well-being of the world. These are very, very subtle, high desires, but they're still desires. So at that point, you go through dharana, which is concentration, and then meditation, and you get to realization. Now, meditation is the art of focusing your mind on one thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts under the supervision of the intellect. Now, in meditation, you get to the last thought. Let's say all these very few desires are eliminated. And in meditation, you're left with only one thought, which you're repeating. And then you're supposed to stop the chant. That is the limit of human effort. Beyond that, we can't do anything. That last thought disappears by itself because of its subtlety, and it's so fine that it can't sustain itself. Now, how do you communicate this to the average person? And they thought of a brilliant idea of getting Krishna to steal butter. Because the extraction of butter from milk is similar to refining your mind. So the milk, which is fluid, is made into curd, solid curd.
So the milk is like the mind, is it?
Yes. So the mind is restless, it goes all over the place.
Yeah.
You introduce a little bit of the Bhagavad Gita or spiritual thought.
Yeah.
And then the mind becomes solid or firm. That curd, I'm going back to the example, curd is churned clockwise, anti-clockwise. So the mind is churned clockwise, assertion of reality, anti-clockwise, negation of the unreal.
Yeah.
And then if you do it the proper way, and I've seen it because in our homes we used to do it every day, pure white butter comes to the surface in a matter of minutes. This is then taken and heated to make ghee.
Yeah.
Now, the butter is the extract of the milk, the purest form of the milk. Similarly, sattvic thought is the purest form of the mind.
Yeah.
And when you get to that level, you're only 100% sattva. They've portrayed it as Krishna coming and stealing butter. So for a devotee, it's like, oh, I just get to that point and Krishna takes me to realization.
Yeah.
An intellectual understands it as the way I explained it.
Right.
But even for intellectuals, it's such an endearing story that it captivates everyone. And it's not just this story. There are so many stories of Krishna that, in fact, children, when they're told these stories, they're simply enthralled. Now, this is another brilliant method used by the Indian sages to get the common person to focus on the higher. So, if you see, all entertainment revolved around the temple.
Correct.
So, Navratri or Ganesh Chaturthi or Diwali, these are the things that were entertaining.
Yes.
You didn't go to a pub, you didn't go to, I don't know, whatever, wherever people go nowadays. So, even a materialistic person who goes out into the world for entertainment, there was still that thought of the higher injected in that activity.
Yeah, they were always reminded.
Yes. And that worked really well.
And I think, just stories and Indian mythology, I think it's really important that children get continued exposure to that, because they may not understand the spiritual significance of those stories, but somewhere we're seeding those positive thoughts, positive ideas, so that when they come into adulthood, suddenly they're able to piece the puzzle together, right? They're able to draw meaning from those stories that at that time seemed like entertainment.
Yes. So even certain rituals that we perform, you don't need to be a ritualistic person, but every day just like the lamp.
Yeah.
And children grow up with that. And then what happens is, as a teenager, when the child is facing problems or issues, the child gravitates towards that lighting the lamp.
Yeah.
Herself or himself asks for it. Similarly, Ganesh Chaturthi or Diwali, you make it a joyous occasion, but you also introduce a little bit of spiritual thought there.
Yeah. You mentioned that the butter signifies, the sattvic content, and then, but why is Lord Krishna stealing? Like, why does it have to be stealing? Can it not be just him asking? I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate in the sense that, like, stealing in itself is not a nice thing, right? It's not a positive action, but yet here we have someone who we worship performing that action. So
That is precisely the point.
yeah,
See, suppose the story went like Krishna went around asking for butter, we would have forgotten about it.
yeah,
They made it dramatic,
okay,
you know. Plus, stealing signifies taking without your knowledge. So that last thought goes by itself,
yeah,
without your knowing it.
yep,
You have to get to that point and just wait,
yeah.
and it goes.
And then, the story continues when Yashoda actually catches Lord Krishna or Krishna the boy in the act, and she begins to tie him with a rope. And then there's this beautiful interaction between the mother and son where she gets, like, the rope always ends up being just short of being able to tie a knot. And no matter what rope she gets a longer rope. And it's quite a funny, fascinating story. But what does that signify? The fact that she's not able to tie the rope around Krishna until he actually lets it happen.
See, he wants to indicate that there is infinity there. He's not just an ordinary child.
Yeah.
He's Atman personified. And you can't bind Atman. That's the meaning. And then it happens when he goes back to his finite state.
Yeah.
So see, this in a way indicates that a realized person has the option of taking off into those subtler heights or coming back to the world and interacting like any normal person. So that is Krishna. He's a normal child. He steals butter. He plays mischief with the gopis. He does all this.
Yeah.
And yet the grandeur of his personality comes forth when he gives the Bhagavad Gita.
Yep. True. In terms of Janmashtami, when they form the human pyramid and break the pot, what is the significance of that?
That is a recreation of what Krishna did, of
Okay.
the story.
Okay.
And then finally he breaks the handi
Yeah.
and the butter they all share.
Yes.
And in fact he shares it with everybody.
Yeah. So
And
it's about
there's-
sharing the wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's another story of his eating mud.
Right.
So Yashoda catches him and asks him, "Have you been eating mud?" And his mouth is shut, but he says no. And she says, "Open your mouth." He opens his mouth, and instead of mud, she sees the whole universe in his mouth. So these are indications that there are moments when he shows his original nature,
Yeah.
like in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
He shows his universal form.
Yeah.
And then people are staggered.
Yep. The beauty of Lord Krishna's life is that he comes and meets us where we are, irrespective of what our spiritual level of spiritual progress may be, and takes us by the hand to that level higher, or wherever we have the appetite for. I think that's really important in the context of teaching, because unless the teacher can come down to the level of the student and connect, there can never be any learning, right?
True.
And especially on the spiritual path. I mean, less math, physics, chemistry, humanities, any form of learning.
Yes, it's a lesson to us actually. It's not just levels, but also you talk to an emotional person with the language of emotions.
Yeah.
You talk to an intellectual person differently. You talk to, there are different kinds of people. You have to level up to their understanding.
Yeah.
And then communication is so fast. Now, what we do is we are riding the high horse and expect the other person to come to our level.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think that happens it tends to happen on the spiritual path, because the moment you begin the journey, there is a sort of clarity that you develop. And then it becomes like you want others to benefit from it. So it's like you try and tell them, can't you see it's so obvious? And then we end up talking down to people, right? And that completely throws people off. Like when it comes to friends and family, let's say that someone in you, like I have taken off on the spiritual path. I mean, I'm just giving an example. And if I go and lecture to my friends and family about it, it's never going to work, right?
So that's the thing. Krishna was an ordinary child, an ordinary youth, an ordinary everything. And he showed his real nature only when it was necessary. So we should also follow that example. And to whatever extent we have grown, keep it to ourselves in terms of our mental understanding.
Yeah.
But when you interact with people, you have to come down to their level. I mean, when I say come down, it sounds very egoistic, but it's not that. It's just an understanding that if people are different and you have to level up to them.
With regard to the story, there's also this thought that Lord Krishna coming and stealing the butter also signifies the way spirituality helps us rid ourselves of our ego, right? So, can you tell us how the ego functions, and how it can hamper or destroy our lives? Because I think, like, sometimes we don't understand. There's a lot of I-ness and self-centeredness that comes as a result of ego, and then we don't really understand how it hurts us.
Yes. The problem with ego is that desire you can easily understand. You have a desire to buy a car, you have a desire for this, that, and the other. It's easily understood. Ego you can't understand. It's like if you have bad breath, everyone else understands except you. So it's like ego is like that. And so therefore, we need to pay special attention to that, a spiritual aspirant. And ego functions in three ways. One is, of course, I am supreme, I am the best. And all of us carry this with us.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
In some aspects.
Second is that, in fact, the first is I only exist. So you see this on Indian roads everywhere. People drive as if they are the only ones. There's no one else on the road. So there's no consideration for anybody else. There's a Parsi gentleman here in Mumbai who used to drive and he irritated everybody else because he stopped for every pedestrian. And then you can't move forward. So the guys behind would get irritated with him. But this is consideration. It's a simple thing, but it denotes that you have respect for others. You understand that others also exist. Then I am the best. Muhammad Ali, the boxer, he's an outstanding example of that because he actually declared that I am the best. And he was the best boxer. But in that, we forget the role played by others in that performance and the role played by that some divine force. Like later when he fell ill, what happened to all his skills and his brilliance? So when we have it, we need to understand that so many people have contributed to our success, if we are successful. And that divine power that enables me to move my hands, that my heart pumps continuously, my lungs exchange gases. So many things have to be just right for us to speak to each other. Yeah. And we completely forget all of that. And one little bit that we have contributed, which is so negligible, for that we say, I am the best. And the third is, I am the doer. That is a killer. Everyone has that. For instance, the chairman of a company thinks, I hold the company together. A lady in the house thinks everything functions because of me. And Emerson put it so beautifully. He says, you want to know how important you are? Take a bucket of water, put your fist into it, hand. Take it out. The hole that you leave in the bucket is how important you are. So while we do things, while we put our heart and soul in doing, and even if we are exceptionally successful in our fields, we must never forget that our role is like that fist in the bucket. So it all boils down to, it's like a bubble on the surface of the ocean who that takes on, it's the same ocean water, the same air, but just a different configuration. And because of that, we give ourselves importance. But in doing that, what we're doing is we are letting go of the grandeur that we are.
Of the ocean.
Of the ocean. Similarly, we are Atman. We are that mighty force that operates the whole universe. But because we consider ourselves an individual, we've become weak, we've become fragile, we've become dependent, when our original nature is something else. So that is the pity of it. And it applies even in the relative. Like you're part of a team, let's say at work, and you're doing something very important that will bring your company up. And then you get into ego problems with people. And we Indians excel at that. There's even a joke that we are like crabs. We individually we excel, but together we excel at pulling each other down.
I think with that, we will begin our study of the Gita. We're on chapter 3, and we're at verse 26 right now.
Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So, Jayaji, we're now on verse 26 of chapter 3, and Lord Krishna says, "The wise one should not confuse the minds of the ignorant who are attached to action. Acting for union with self, one should inspire others to act."
Yes, in this verse, he talks about a truth that you can't change anyone else. You can only change yourself. So he says the wise one should not confuse the ignorant because gunas function, nature functions. And whatever you do, it's not possible to change people. So what must you do? It's not that you do nothing. You must accept that they will be what they are. And even if you want them to change, it's like a car going at 100 kilometers an hour can't suddenly turn. So you have to take the faster the speed, the wider the turn.
Yeah.
Similarly with people, inspire them with one idea here, another idea there. And most importantly, with your own conduct and your own inspiration, the manner in which you conduct yourself, that in itself inspires them. So that's why a leader of high caliber is so important. And then you just wait. You can't force people. That's what he's saying here. Because when they can't relate with what you're doing, they just stop acting. Because they can't go back to what they're doing and they can't identify with what you're doing.
So, when he says acting for union with self, what does that mean for those on the spiritual path?
See, he's giving the highest ideal.
Yeah.
Atman, self. But even relatively, if you're working for something beyond yourself,
Yeah.
let's say you want to get together a world-class football team. That's a higher ideal. So then you have to relinquish your personal desires and work for that goal. And when others see you working, they also get inspired. But of course, the highest is self-realization.
Right. Shall we move to the next verse?
Yes.
Yeah. In verse 27, Lord Krishna says, "The gunas, qualities of Prakriti, nature, perform all actions. One confused by egoism believes I am the doer.
Yes, here he segregates your real self, Atman, from actions. So, actions come from vasana. So, whatever be the quality of the vasana, you will think in that manner, you will have desires for that, and you will act accordingly. So, all actions are colored by vasana. But Atman, the driving force inside you, is immaculate, unaffected by whatever actions are performed. You could have a criminal, you could have an ordinary person like us, you could have an outstanding sage meditating in the Himalayas. Atman energizes or enables all of that. So when you see that difference, that's what he's saying here. You don't believe that I am the doer, meaning the individual. You just understand, and later in the next verse he says, Guna guneshu vartante means gunas function. So he's instilling an element of objectivity, which is one of the most important qualities we need in spiritual growth. Because we get completely involved in whatever we do. If you have to see what happens on the roads, if there is an accident means nothing major, just two cars
Brush each other.
brush each other. What happens? They stop, they get down, they start fighting. Before you know it, a mob collects around them and they are taking sides when they don't even know what's happened. So this is our level of involvement. And he's talking about 100% objectivity when you see a clear difference between Atman and Gunas. So you have to see where you are. Let's say a couple goes with a little child to a movie theater.
Yeah.
And there's a documentary being shown. And they show a tiger coming, leaping at you. The child gets scared and says, oh, tiger is coming. She starts crying. Mother says, you're stupid. It's only a film on screen.
Yeah.
And then the main movie starts and it's a tragedy. So the mother starts crying. Now the child looks at her and says, Mama, why are you crying? So what it means is that we all have our levels of involvement.
Yeah.
And at this moment, we are spiritual children getting involved in everything. So we get involved not only in our gunas, but in other people's gunas.
Yeah.
And then it's impossible to extricate yourself from that, And the result is, wherever there is no objectivity, you suffer.
It's true.
So the whole world is suffering because of lack of objectivity. And
even
Socrates highlights this objectivity, just an incident that happened. So he was teaching his students.
Yeah.
But his wife got irritated with him, so she was yelling at him. He ignored her and continued teaching. And before long, there was a bucket of dirty water that was thrown on his head. He was completely unaffected. He continued. The only thing he said is, you see, when it roars, it rains. So this kind of thing we have to aspire for. The common person doesn't even understand what objectivity is.
Yeah.
And when you are objective, they think it's indifference. You don't care. Say.
Yeah. And even Shakespeare touches upon it in, I think it's As You Like It, the play. And he says, all the world's a stage and all the men and women...
all the world's a stage
Yeah.
and all men and women mere players.
Yeah.
They have their exits and their entrances. So that is again an outstanding example of objectivity.
Exactly.
Where an actor plays a role and a good actor puts himself into that role.
Yep.
Yet, never does he forget that I'm the actor playing the role. So that, it's a subtle difference. Where whatever we do, we get involved. Or we're indifferent. But to perform your actions with your heart and soul and yet be objective is so difficult.
It's a tough one. Moving on to verse 28, Lord Krishna says, But, O Mahabaho, mighty armed one, the true knower of the division of guna, quality, and karma, action, is not attached. Understanding that gunas as sense organs operate in gunas as sense objects. That's a bit confusing.
This is a brilliant verse.
Yeah, but if you can,
Yes.
tell us, read the, the
Okay.
Sanskrit, the original Sanskrit, then I think the impact will
Yeah.
hit different.
So see, he says he's talking about a tattvavit, the knower of truth, a person who really understands everything about how things are happening, understands the division between gunas and Atman. It's like understanding the difference between fuel and the performance of cars.
Yeah.
Fuel is the same in all cars, but the performance there's a wide difference. So in a Maruti, it's like, if you see 3 different cars at a signal and see what happens when the signal turns green, then you know the power.
Yeah.
So a Maruti takes time to just pick up. An ordinary car, let's say a Honda, is in between. But you take a top of the line car, really powerful car, a Mercedes or something like that, it just takes off.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So similar, but yet the fuel is the same in all. But performance depends on the engine. Similarly, Atman is the same in all of us. But the actions depend on vasanas, the engine within us. And if you refine that or you purify that, then you see the brilliance of Atman just shine forth in a person. And that is so attractive. So that's what he's saying here. And then what does he understand? Guna guneshu vartante. Gunas will function, vasanas will function in sense organs, sense objects. So it's like this. Vasana manifests as thought in the intellect, desire in the mind, so it consolidates as desire in the mind, and finally manifests as action. Not just that, the vasanas determine the environment in which you are. So a stockbroker will be in a stockbroking environment, a criminal will be in a criminal environment, so on and so forth. And you collect like-minded people around you. So an actor will be with other actors, a musician will be with musicians. So we all live in our own different worlds. And when you understand that, and you understand the way people function, and these are vasanas, but Atman is different in others as well as in yourself, then you have no comment. Like a sage will not get excited about anything because he's already kind of discounted. You say the stock market has discounted certain happenings. He's discounted the entire world. And that's a wonderful place to be in because you're not affected by anything. Like Krishna, not affected by anything, yet he was totally engaged in everything that happened. Like he was bang in the middle of the Mahabharata war as Arjuna's charioteer, which means all arrows were pointed at Arjuna, which means they were going through him. And yet he maintained his poise right through. And he said, I'm not taking sides and I am not going to fight. And he followed that to the T till the end. And yet, it was his advice at crucial junctures of the battle that saved the Pandavas. That is the role that a spiritually evolved person plays in the world.
We'll do the last verse for today. That's verse 29. And Lord Krishna says in verse 29, the wise should not disturb the ignorant who have incomplete knowledge and are deluded by the gunas, qualities of Prakriti, nature, and are attached to the functioning of the gunas.
So he's concluding.
Yeah.
26 onwards, he has taken us through the role of gunas and the role of Atman. And now he's concluding. So people who don't understand this get involved and suffer. There's a beautiful story of a health minister who goes to a mental hospital to inaugurate some new department that they have. and it was some distance away from the city. So a few yards of just before the gate of the mental institution, his car broke down. And the driver said it'll take time to fix it. And he was getting late. So he said, no problem, I'll walk. So he left his, whatever, his belongings and walked alone.
Yeah.
At the gate, the guy said, where do you want to go? He said, I'm the health minister. I've come here to inaugurate this. So the guard tells him, every guy who's come here has said the same thing. So the more he talks, the more that guy is convinced that this is a mad person walking in. So, this story is to communicate to us that who are you by yourself?
Yeah.
Without the trappings of wealth, power, position. And we must look at that. Because that's how we're going to leave the world. That's how we've entered the world. And this is ego. You've just acquired various things and then you assert your identity with that. It's such a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's like a friend of mine asked me, we were invited to a wedding. So she said, are you going? I said, yes. Then I asked her, are you going? She said, I am invited and I want to go, but I can't go. I said, why? She says, it's the wedding of wealthy people, both sides, and I have an ordinary car. How can I go? And you see, the truth is, I asked her, I said, whom do you want to impress with your car? Who's going to see which car you've come in? Other drivers, right? The main people inside don't care. It doesn't even register. Similarly, the clothes you wear, it's somebody else's wedding and I go on a shopping spree. It doesn't make sense. So these are things that we need to think. That's what they say, deluded by the gunas. And are completely and totally attached
Yeah.
to their functioning.
Yeah, and I think, without spirituality, we tend to have this exaggerated sense of self-importance where we feel like, oh, what are people going to think of me, or what are people going to say about me, and all of that, when we're not even on their
Radar.
radar at all. And I think understanding that our insignificance at some level kind of is a liberation from all this unnecessary baggage that we tend to carry, because then it frees us to focus on the things that are truly important, right?
True. Because this desire to impress people, to match up to the Joneses and
Yeah.
all that is so silly. Because it doesn't matter in the end. And they don't even get impressed by whatever you do.
Yeah.
So, and also this business of networking. Now, just because you rub shoulders with a rich guy doesn't mean his wealth is going to come to you. So you just keep your nose to the grinding wheel and work.
Focus on merit, right?
Focus on merit. You'll get it. In your own way, at the right time.
Yeah. Right. So I think with that, we've come to the end of today's show. What are the takeaways that you would like to leave us with today?
We started with this most endearing story of Krishna and stealing butter, Makhan Chor,
Yeah.
and also the other stories surrounding him. You see, the difference between Krishna and Rama is Rama was God's good person, the ideal person. So we all respect him and we look up to him. But Krishna has a totally different character.
Yeah.
He endears himself to everyone.
Very
with
true.
his mischief, with his cheer, with all his pranks. And that in a way attracts us. So
He
that's
feels
Krishna.
it almost he feels much closer,
Yes.
more relatable, I think, at some level.
True.
Yeah.
And yet he was what he was. Then we moved on to the verses where we spoke of, basically these verses talk about how we need to be objective to understand the difference between the performance of a car and the fuel.
Yeah.
between actions and Atman, and how Atman is completely and totally free, unattached. Like the fifth chapter says, Padma Patram Ivambhasa, like a lotus leaf in water. The water may be dirty, but the lotus leaf is untouched. So the more objective you become, the closer you get to Atman.
Yeah. And how does one develop that objectivity?
Yes, that's a good
In short.
question. By observing things as they are without passing judgment. So you have to learn the art of being non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Like on our way here, somebody brought up this thing about one individual having 8 cars, right?
Okay.
It's just, he narrated it to us.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a reaction in us, it means we're not objective. If you view it as, yes, this is happening. And why? Because the person feels insecure without the 8 cars. No? We are also insecure. What difference? We are latching on to different things. That's all.
Yeah, and who are we to judge others?
Exactly.
Like, some level.
So that's it. And then at the end, he uses this Tattvavid, a knower of truth, understands Guna Guneshu Vartante. Gunas will function. Iti Matvana Sajjate. Knowing this, you don't get attached.
Shall we do the closing invocation
Yes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So, if you'd like to, hear the recitation of the full entire recitation of the Bhagavad Gita, you can visit our website www.vedantavision.org, and get access to the verses, the chanting of all the verses. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. We got an opportunity today to enjoy some of the mischief and the light and grace and fun that Krishna brought into his life and the people around him. But I think it also reminded us of the importance of the value that spirituality brings into our lives, and it opens the doors to happiness and joy. I hope that you also rediscover that joy through the knowledge, and we'll see you next week. Bye.